Hey guys, Scott here. Today I thought I'd do a bit of introspection because I see a few, not too many. It's definitely in the minority, but I do see a few comments, and I am stupid and read all of my YouTube comments. And human nature makes us focus on the negative ones. So I do see a couple of comments that say that anytime I post first impressions of the PTB, I'm basically just shitting on the game. I shit on the killer. I never have anything good to say about it. I'm always complaining that they're so weak and they're underpowered every time there's a new killer coming out. And I thought, if that's true, then that's something I need to look at because that's like annoying. If I'm just bitching about killers that aren't weak and like just saying everything is weak, blah blah blah, everything is bad, well then I think that's a problem with me and I need to check that. So I checked it. I watched all of my first impression videos. Apparently I started with Legion. I thought I did one with Spirit, but I guess I didn't. I also didn't do one for Plague either, but I watched all of my first impression videos. And I just want to go over what I said in them and how they relate to now, and what I think I said is pretty fair. And I'm not just complaining about stuff. I'm just explaining the issues that are happening in there, and sometimes there are no issues. And I guess people just ignore those ones. Where's his hair? Oh, there it is. So the first one was Legion, and this was the original Legion, the PTB Legion. And I said it was terrible because it was terrible. If you think the old Legion was anything but terrible, you need to perhaps consider that you are the problem, man. That is one of the most inexcusably bad things that they have ever done in this game. For those who don't know what Old Legion did, Old Legion was basically he could go into Feral Frenzy and he vaulted faster. He was basically always guaranteed to hit no matter what. And he could also swing and miss and he wouldn't cancel his power. And he could hit you and it would remove portions of your mending bar. So he could just keep using his power when you cannot defend against it whatsoever, and he would eventually just kill you every single time. But he was still a bad killer because he could only do that to devote to one guy. And then moonwalking was discovered, like all these things I talked about, and I said all these things are huge, huge problems. So I said, when I made that video, hey, this design is terrible. It's really bad. Can you blame me? Yeah, it was really bad. It was just an objectively fucking terrible design that made people literally stop playing the game. So if calling that is bad, then I don't want to be correct because I don't know, man. That was anything but good. It was just an abomination of a killer design. So yes, my opinions on the original PTB Legion were very bad. And I think that should be seen as very fair because it was very bad. Plague I didn't do for some reason. I don't know why. For Ghostface, I did say he was bad. I did say Ghostface was not good. And I think people need to start realizing that saying that something is not good is not complaining. Just like saying something is very strong is not singing its praises. It's not like, wow, Nurse is the best killer in the game. You're not like so like proud of Nurse and her design and like none of that. I'm just viewing it as an objective display of strength. If I say a killer is average, or if I say a killer is weak, or I say a killer is strong, there's no complaint or praise in there. It's just what they are. It's the thing that they are. So if I find a killer to be not great, I say they're not great. It's very weird to go to a first impressions video and then not expect the person to give their first impressions on how good they are. I don't know why you would click a video and not expect them to give their opinion on that. And if they're bad, you just want them to lie. I don't know what, like, and like they always like reference like more positive people like Otz or something, and then I'll check Otz's videos like on Pinhead, and Otz was like, yeah, he's pretty weak too, but it's fine. Then for some reason, I don't know. It's like they just only focus in on the negative things that I say. And I don't know. I think that's just super unfair. But anyway, back to Ghostface. I did say that Ghostface was very not well made in the PTB. And again, it's because he wasn't very well made in the PTB. I don't know if you guys remember PTB Ghostface. You could reveal Ghostface by just spinning in a circle. You don't even know where he was. You could just spin in a circle and you'd reveal him. That's how broken his reveal mechanic was. So yeah, he was terrible for that very glaring flaw that he had. Of course, they fixed it to an extent later, and now it's not a problem. But again, these are just PTB first impressions that I'm defending. And first impression of him was pretty accurate. He was busted as shit. He didn't work properly. You could reveal him from everywhere. So that one was accurate too. Demogorgon, when he came out, I didn't even complain about him. I said he was a good killer. I still think he's a good killer. He's one of my favorite killers of all time. That's pretty much it. There was actually not even really any negativity with that one, so that one's just not even on the board. Oni, same thing. I loved Oni when he came out. I pretty much just sung nothing but his praises. In fact, I praised him too much. I thought he was on the overpowered side. I don't know if you guys remember PTB Oni, but he could break a pallet in like half a second, meaning the one good defense that you have against Oni, which is just, a good pallet, didn't even matter because he could break it and be charging and on you like in half a second. It was nuts how quickly you broke pallets on the PTB. So I actually said he was a little overpowered, which I still agree with myself. I'm pretty consistent with that. I do think if he was still like that, he would be considered overpowered for how quickly he broke pallets. But other than that, yeah, no complaints about him. I thought he was well designed. I did say that I didn't really like the system where you lost all of your power upon picking up a survivor because it encouraged you to only slug people, and then they fixed that. And so there's nothing going on there. Nothing was wrong there, I guess. Deathslinger, my original assessment was that he's a little bit worse than Huntress, but he's probably stronger in the 1v1. But he just doesn't have as much snowball potential as Huntress does. So I think Huntress is a little bit better than Deathslinger. But that's just, my opinion on it. Some people think Deathslinger is a little better than Huntress, but it's whatever. My initial opinion was that he's a little bit worse than Huntress, and that's still my opinion. I don't know. Again, I don't see how that's complaining. I'm just comparing him to a somewhat similar killer that kind of plays the same on a lot of tiles. I talked about his strengths where he can aim a lot quicker, but his weaknesses where he doesn't snowball as much. Again, I don't see how this is complaining. He's just saying he's a pretty good killer. The next one was Pyramid Head, which again, I said he was a very good killer. I said he was not overpowered. I did say his perks were not that great, which they are not. But I didn't really complain about him either. I thought he was actually a pretty good killer. Didn't say he was weak or anything. Then we had Blight, who I initially said was bad because, again, he was bad on the PTB. I think people are forgetting how different some of these killers are on the PTB compared to, their current versions. And every single time in all of these videos, I always say, but this is just the PTB, so it could be fixed later down the line. I checked every single video. I always say that exact line. So I'm telling you that I'm just looking at the current version of the killer objectively. And in the future, it could be fixed. And in most of these cases, it does get fixed, and then it's not an issue. But I don't know if you guys remember, the initial Blight had massive hitbox problems in the complete opposite direction of what we had now. It was worse. So right now, the problem is Blight doesn't collide with enough stuff. The initial Blight collided with too much stuff. He would collide with air. Like, you actually couldn't even get into the shack. The shack was too skinny a window for you to get through. It was horrible. Like, there were only a couple scenarios you could even use this power around loops. It was like, PTB Blight was really a much weaker version of what he is. And so I said he was not going to be an amazing killer. I said he was going to be about average, which that version of Blight was about, he was average. Now when they fixed it and you can actually start using his power and loops and stuff, it jettisoned him way the fuck up there because now he's actually very terrifying in most loops. But that's not how he released on the PTB. And so I still think my initial assessment that he wasn't that good was fair. I can't think of any other arguments against that. But Twins. Twins is probably the only killer that I've ever had an initial opinion on and been wrong about the strength, which is okay. I'm happy to admit that. Like I said, it's just PTB first impressions. They're not always going to be perfectly accurate. The reason my first impressions of Twins were wrong is because I was not playing them correctly. I typically try to avoid slugging, tunneling, camping as much as possible. I'll still do it if I have to, but I try to avoid it as much as possible. But that killer is meant to do those things. You have to do those things in order to get good results. What I was doing is, hitting somebody, sending out Victor, downing them with Victor, switching back, running back, picking that guy up, putting him on the hook. Like, that process, of course, if you play like that, Twins is going to seem like shit. Because I'm trying to play all wholesome, and it just does not work with that killer at all. A side note, this is why a lot of people hate Twins, because you have to play kind of like a bitch to get good results with him. But that is why my initial assessment of Twins was that they were not that great. That being said, one of my main complaints was that lockers completely countered the killer, and they did. And then they fixed the lockers, and then the issue was fixed. But again, that was just my opinion on the PTB version of it. And that was still accurate because lockers still did completely fuck over the Twins. So it was still accurate in the context of the actual PTB version of it. Nemesis, on the PTB, I said he was pretty decent. I said if they want him to make him very good, they should probably remove the fact that he gives you a speed burst on an infectious hit. And other than that, I said everything else is pretty much fine. I had little discussions about zombies being both good and bad, but I was pretty happy with Nemesis as well. I think he's a decent killer. I thought he was a decent killer on the PTB, and that's where we're at now. And then we're right back down to Pinhead. I said in my first impressions video that I just uploaded, I thought the mechanics of aiming the chain are actually very cool, and I'm very interested to see how that like half nurse, half steerable RPG mechanic can get expanded on and be made the focus of his power. Because if they do that and then buff the chains that those ones hit and not really the passive ones that you get for free, that can make him a very, very cool killer that's both fun to play, maybe fun to play against, but and he'll also be effective too. But on the PTB, he doesn't have any of that. So right now, he's kind of weak. That's just the truth of the matter. He's just a weak killer right now because, Clown can do what he does without the passive. Clown can do what he does significantly easier and with far less risk. And I think Clown being a baseline is not a good line for strength. Even if he's a bit better than Clown, that's still not really a good place to be. So I still stick by my original assessment there too, and I don't see how any of these things are complaints. I'm saying I actually really like the main design of the killer. I just think he's weak at the moment, which he just is. So I don't know. I know I'm targeting 20 people in my comments that just say I'm complaining, and I always say that the killers are weak when they come out, but I just wanted to make this video to prove that you're just objectively wrong for half the time because I actually praise them half the time, and then the other times I'm saying things are bad when they are bad. And I don't know what else you want me to do other than just lie about how good they are at the time. I don't really sugarcoat stuff. I'm sure there's other people you can go to watch if you would like to see that, but I don't sugarcoat stuff. If someone seems weak, I'm going to say they are weak. And, the vast majority of the time, I'm usually right. Twins is the one time I'll happily admit I was incorrect about the power assessment because the way I played. But pretty much every other time, it's been accurate. So I don't know. I feel it feels unfair to say I'm complaining about shit and I say every killer is weak when that's just simply not true. And I'm just judging their strength, not really complaining. But that's it. Totally unnecessary video. I had nothing better to make today, to be honest. Yeah. All right, bye.